Alright guys, let's go ahead and start talking about styles and themes. So first of all, what is a style? Well, let's say that you had a bunch of, I don't know, maybe you had a bunch of these inputs where the user could type something into your app and let me just change the size of this to like 300 dp. Alright, so you had one on the sign up page and you had one, I don't know, maybe they could like leave a comment to their friend or something, and you wanted all of these little inputs, these plain text fields, to have a gray border and I don't know, maybe like a tinted light blue background. So what you decided to do is add a bunch of these and then, okay, gotta go to background and where's border? Gotta change, okay. That's going to take like 1,000 days if you're going to have to do that to every single one. So instead, what you can do is you can make something called a style. Now, a style is kind of like a class in CSS. It's a reusable design. So you can make one style and then apply it to every single element that you want. And if you ever want to change it, I don't know, maybe you want to change the color of the border to red, then you can just change the style once and it changes on all of your widgets. So let me go ahead and delete that, and let's go ahead and learn how to make these babies right now. So right click on values, because this is where you put them, new values resource file, and I'm just going to name this something like ocean.xml, since this is going to be all my like cool blue ocean styling, and hit OK. So by default we're given this. Alright, this is just our XML stuff, and in resources is where we're going to stick everything. So the first thing I want to do, anytime you want to make a new style, let me adjust my seat a little bit, you add the element style just like that. Now the name of your style is just, what do you want to, let's say you're going to make a bunch of, you're going to apply the style to make your text blue. So I'm just going to name this style something like baby blue, and you have an option to add a parent, but we won't do that right now. Now what a parent is essentially something that you can inherit from. So I'll show you guys how to do this later on, but right now I really don't want to overwhelm you. The really basics of a style is anytime you want to make a reusable design, just include a style tag and give it a name. And then you can use this name whenever you want. So of course, if we're going to make a reusable design, we might as well add some, cool designs. So each attribute or property you add in the item tag. So the name, I'll just write Android. The first thing I want to do is just set the layout width, if I could find it, layout width and height. Alright, so the property of course is in your tag, and in between you write the value. So wrap content, let me just copy this and set layout height. So I'm going to be applying this style to a bunch of different text. Actually, let's drag a few more on there. Drag a large text right here and a large text down here. Alright. So the first thing I want to do is I just want to change the width and height just to wrap the content. And that's just for housekeeping stuff. Now let's go ahead and get to the good stuff. So I'm going to copy this one more time, and the property that I want to change is text color. So on all of these elements I want to set the text color to something like, actually here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set this to EF, which is kind of like a light gray, and then I'm going to set the background of it because, I don't know, I just think that'll be really easy to see. So the background color is just background. And one of my favorite blues is 006699. So this is going to have a blue background with like a light gray font. So now we have a style. Whenever anything is baby blue, then it's essentially going to make that widget blue. So how do we apply this style to these widgets? Well, if you go in your activity or wherever the widget is, then let's go ahead and do it to this first one right now. And also what I would like to do is just select all of this and then hold down Control Alt L and then run this, and then this is just going to reformat everything. Again, that's Control Alt L, and it makes everything nice and neat. So the first thing that you can add is a property called style. So in your text view, and apparently I selected the second one, oh well, still work. Add a style attribute and set the property to @style baby blue. Now check it out. As soon as I apply a style to this widget right here, it changes it to blue as we specified in our XML style right there. Now I can apply this to every single one, this third one, and also the first one. And how awesome is that? Now, the cool thing about this is if you ever wanted to go back and say, you know what, I actually want to change these all to have a red background. So instead of just going through, okay, let me select this background, then this one, background, then that one, background. All you have to do is go to your styles and then just change this to some color red. And then pop back over. Pretty stinking awesome. But of course, the name is baby blue, so I'm going to keep that blue for now. And check it out. So now let me explain that inheritance thing I was talking about, because it's going to make a lot more sense now. So you guys already know what inheritance is. It's pretty much grabbing all of the stuff from somewhere else and using it in whatever you're creating. So it's just like Java, kind of. So let's go ahead in our oceans.xml and inherit from baby blue. Now, of course, whenever we inherit, what we need to do is we need to give it a new name, and the name is actually really important. The first part is if we just type baby blue right here that says inherit everything from baby blue, and then add a little period. And what this allows us to do is it allows us to give it kind of our own custom version of baby blue. So I'm going to name this one big blue, and that's how you inherit from any other style. So right now, even though that it looks like nothing is in here, essentially what we did is we copied all of this and we're pasting it in here. So now if we add something like item and set something like Android, I don't know, we'll just change the text size. So what we can do here is just change the text size to like something big, like 30 SP. Then again, anything that we apply the style baby blue, big blue is not only going to get all the stuff from baby blue right here, but we also overrode the text size to make it 30 SP, and this just bumps up the text a little bit. So for this first one right here, let me go ahead and change this to baby blue dot big blue and check out what happens. So again, it gets all the stuff from baby blue, but also the new crap from big blue as well. So that is inheritance. And the thing that may confuse you, so I just want to touch on this a little bit. Whenever you are inheriting from a style that you created yourself, you use the syntax of the style's name, dot separator, and then the new name. Now, if you look in styles right here, which is the default one, whenever they inherited from somewhere else, they had this parent attribute. So again, that's the only difference. If you want to inherit from something that you created, then you use the dot separator. But if you want to inherit something from Android, then you need the parent. So right now we are inheriting from the dark action bar, which pretty much just makes the action bar like dark gray and all that stuff. So if you guys ever get confused about like different inheritance, that is why. But now that you guys know the basics of styles, in the next tutorials what I want to do is I want to show you guys something called a theme. And a theme is how you can pretty much apply an overall style to your entire activity and not just individual widgets. Alright guys, so in the last tutorial what I did is I showed you guys how to use styles. Now, a style was pretty much a reusable design that you could apply to individual widgets. Oh, tastes like SpaghettiOs. Anyways, so in this tutorial I'm going to show you guys how to use a theme. Now, a theme is pretty much a style that you can apply to either an entire activity or your entire application. So if you just want to apply an overall style to, again, this entire activity or every single activity in your entire app, I'll show you guys how to do that really easily. But the first thing I want to do is this. just so we're pretty much starting from scratch and I don't confuse you guys, let's go ahead and delete all of these styles. So pretty much we're back to bare bones. Just select that, and might as well just go ahead and delete everything in this ocean.xml. Alright, so now we're pretty much back to basics. We can go ahead and start learning how to use themes. So the first thing we need to do is actually create a theme. Now I know that this is named ocean.xml, but say that we were making, I don't know, maybe we were making an app for some like environmental company and they wanted every single background on every single activity to be green. So let's go ahead and do that. Now the first thing that we need is a color resource. So color, and the name of this is, I'll just name it like Bucky's BG color. Good enough. Now a cool green I like is 009900. So now we have a color that we can use in our theme. And by the way, I typically like to name things like background color or text color because if you're ever making an app and if you just name this something like green and then your boss is like, you know what, let's change the background to red, well then it's going to say green everywhere and it's kind of silly. So instead, if you have something like Bucky's BG color, you can change this to any one you want and it'll make sense. So I don't know if that makes sense, but it's better not to like name your colors green or blue or yellow or anything like that. So another thing is this. In order to make that overall theme, it's really similar to a style. So you make a style, you give it a name like Bucky's theme, and then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to inherit from Android, and I'll just choose like theme light. Now the reason I want to do this is because remember, this gives us a bunch of default styling that's already on our device. And the reason that I want to do that is because right now we're only changing the background color and I don't feel like styling every single widget individually, so that's why I'm going to say, okay, we're just going to grab all this crap by default, just use that theme, and we're just going to override whatever we need to. So it makes it really easy, especially whenever I'm trying to teach it. So of course, anytime we want to change a style, we just use the item name and to access the background color of your activity, it's actually Android window background. So now from here we just throw in a color, and that is at color Bucky's BG color. So again, any activity or any app that has Bucky's theme is going to have a green background. So now let's go ahead, now that we created a theme, let's learn how to apply it. So in order to apply an overall theme, what you need to do is you need to hop up to Android manifest. Now if you look in your manifest, this is where pretty much your entire app is managed. And by default, it already has a theme right here. Now if we just change Bucky's theme instead of the default app theme, then what this is going to do is it's going to apply that green background to every single activity, every single screen in your app. If we only wanted to apply that green background to an individual activity, then we would stick it in here within your activity. So that's the difference. Whenever you apply a property in here, it just changes one screen. Whenever you apply it right here, it's going to change every single activity or every single screen within your app. Now let me just fix this because it's annoying me. Control Alt L, enter. Alright. Now if you hop back over to activity main, I really thought that would change because, okay, let me make sure. We created the theme, everything looks good. In the manifest, yep, it says that this project is indeed using Bucky's theme, so what the heck? Well, the reason that it isn't displaying as your little preview because whenever you're just using this little design tool, what you can do is you can actually select your themes just to see how it looks on different devices. But in order to see how it would really look on a device, then what you do is go to app theme and go to manifest themes. And again, we only have Bucky's theme right there, but if you select OK, then this is of course what it's actually going to look like. Of course, you can choose other ones to say, I wonder how it would look if I used Hollow Light. And I don't know. I wonder how it will look if I use material dark. So this is just for testing out, but what your app's really going to look like is whatever the manifest is telling it to look like. So there you go, and check it out. So again, to recap one more time, anytime you want to use a theme, just go ahead and create your theme in an XML file, specify where you want to use that theme in your manifest, and make sure in your little design tool that you actually are saying, okay, use the manifest theme instead of anything else that I want to test out. So there you go. There's the real basics of it. Thank you guys for watching, and well, I'm probably going to go eat some macaroni and cheese or something, so I'll see you guys later. Alright, hosses, welcome back, and in this tutorial what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to use shared preferences. And what shared preferences are is pretty much the easiest way to store user data, or pretty much to save any small type of data on your application. And another thing that people use it a lot for is if you have any app that's like customizable, or you just want to save some settings, like I don't know, maybe you allow the user to like change the background color of their app, or maybe there's like a setting to bump up the font size to make it easier to read. Any of those settings can really easily be saved using these things called shared preferences. So just to demonstrate, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a really simple form, and you can just make any thing that the user can type in and have a button called save. But just so this example actually resembles an app in real life, I'm going to have one text field right here and another one right under it. So we'll say that this is like a login screen. So the first text view will just say username, and this one will be like, I don't know, password. So I'm just gonna write them in plain text so you guys can see. So obviously, not the most secure tutorial in the world, but this is just a demo. So these are just text field little indicators telling the user what you want them to do. Just give myself a little bit more space. Get rid of that too. Alright, so now let's get some of these plain text. I'm just stick it right there. Let me change this to like, how's 250 dp look? Too big. 180 dp? Holy jamolies. 180 dp? Let's go 200. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to 200 dp. Alright. Actually, let me just put that right there, and another one right here. So again, what's going to happen in this demo is the user is going to type in some information right here, and we'll have a button called save, and then we can go shut off our phone, go to the gym, we can go look at other apps, come back here, and all of that information is going to be saved. Pretty stinking cool. So the first thing I should probably do is give these an ID. So the ID of where they type their username, I'll just write user name input. And for this one where they type their password, I'll just write password input. So now I'm going to add two buttons to here real quick. And the first one is going to be, I'll just add some text on it called, what can I put, like, save info. Let me add another button. Alright, so whenever they click this button, what it's going to do is it's going to take whatever they typed in here, and it's going to save it to that shared preferences file. Now whenever they click this button, I'll just write display, actually I would name it display info or something like that. And let me add on clicks to here real quick. Alright, so this one might as well just write like save info. And for button 2, whenever we click this, it'll call a method called display data. Alright, so again, whenever we click this, it's going to display this info just to show you guys that it is indeed being saved. So it would probably be a good idea to have some place to display it. How about right there? Stick it right in the middle. Alright, so this one we just need an ID so we can say where we're printing it out. And the ID of this, I'll just say like Bucky's text. So one more time, what we're going to do to demonstrate what shared preferences are is you can actually have any type of data. You can have like check marks. You can get a true and false value from like any of these widgets right here. But I'm just going to save some string data through username and password. So they're going to type it in, hit save info, and we're going to like close out of the app, do whatever, come back, hit display info, and it's going to show you guys that it indeed was saved for them. So now what I want to do is get rid of this stuff because we don't need it, and I'm also going to get rid of that because it's bugging me. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is just get a reference to all of our widgets, and that is edit text, which were those inputs, and I name mine user name input, and I named the other one password input, and that text view right here was, what was that? Bucky's text. Text view, Bucky's text. Alright, so now that we started creating them, let's actually set a reference to them. Username input equals edit text, find view by ID, r.id dot username input. Alright, so this one was password input, and of course that's r.id dot password input. And last but not least, we have Bucky's text, and that was just that little text view. And this is just going to be find by ID r.id dot Bucky's text. Alright, so that's all the boring crap. That's what we already knew how to do. So now let me give myself a little bit more space. And alright, so we have two methods that we need to create. The very first method is going to be called whenever we click this button, and we gave it the on click of save info. So whenever they click this, it's going to take whatever they typed in and save it to that shared preferences file. So I'm just going to write save the, I don't know, like users info. I'll put the users login info. Alright, so that's public pass in our views. Alright, and if you highlight that and just hit Alt Enter, then that was red because we didn't import it. And another thing is, most of the time whenever you just type those things out, they automatically import. But if they ever turn red, then a cool little tip is you can just click it and hit Alt Enter, and it'll import for you, so you don't have to, like, I don't know, it'll save you like 2 seconds of typing, but still, you know, save yourself some time. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is we need to allow shared preferences to be used in our app. And of course there's a special class called shared preferences right there, and this allows us access to create and edit shared preferences files. It's a little more complex than this, but the first thing we need to do, might as well just, let me name it shared pref. I really don't like object names the same as the classes because, I don't know, if I ever want to create like multiple ones, it gets kind of messy. But anyways, what we're going to do right now is saying, okay, we want to use shared preferences in our app, and also we need to add another setting to say we only want this application, the app that we're making right now, to be able to access this file that has the user's info in it. Since, again, this is their name and their password, so we want to keep this data secure. So in order to do that, you write get shared preferences, and the first parameter is the name of your preferences file. So in this app, we're just going to save the login information. But let's say, I don't know, maybe we're making another app that we want to save their like notification settings. Well, we're going to make another shared preferences file for that, so you can have multiple shared preferences files. You're not just limited to one. So for this one, I'm just going to name user info, And the second parameter is just a privacy setting. If we write context, and then we just write mode private, what this means is that this file is private. In other words, only this application can access it. And there are types of shared preferences that you can share between different applications, but for this one, it's going to be private since it's login information. So now that we pretty much have access to use shared preferences, what we want to do now is we want to create an object that allows us to edit this file, to either add shared preferences or well, we're going to be reading them later whenever we display it. But if we go to shared preferences and then we call editor, and I'll just name my object editor. What this does is it gives us an object that we can pretty much write to this file. So shared pref dot edit is what you set this equal to, and now we can start adding stuff to this file. So how do we do that? We take our editor and we call a method called put string. So every thing in your shared preferences file is going to come in the form of a key value pair. So it's kind of like a really simple database that only has 2 columns. So the first one we're just going to call username, and it's essentially just putting a variable in your file. So we're going to say, okay, make a key in here called username, and for the value we're just going to get whatever value was typed in here. So of course if we go to username input right there, which was that text field, and you write get text, and then we just write to string. What this is going to do is it's going to take whatever text they typed in here, convert it to a string, and set it equal to the value of username. So right now, this isn't actual code, but it's just really easy to see what's going on. Your file's pretty much going to be like this: username equals, I don't know, like Bucky Roberts. So again, obviously this isn't real code or anything. I'm just going to show you guys what's going on behind the scenes. So therefore, later on, whenever we say, okay, go to this file, user info, and print out username, it's going to say, okay, username equals Bucky Roberts, so it's going to print out Bucky Roberts. So again, this is like a really simplified version of what's going on. But now we have to do the same thing for the password field. So if we actually just copy this, we're going to use that editor to put another string in, and this string, we'll just name it password, and this one is just password input to string. So now we got 2 different variables essentially in our shared preferences file. So in order to actually submit this or have the editor actually write it, you have to write editor.apply. I know it's kind of unnecessary. Well, it's not unnecessary. It kind of looks like a extra step, but hey, that's what Android makes you do. So now, just so the user has a little indicator what's going on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually make a toast, and I'm going to make text, and I'll just say this for context. What can I write? Like saved. Alright. So whenever they actually click this button, I want them to know that something happened. You did it correctly. So they click it, and it just says saved, a nice little pop-up on the screen for them. So then they aren't like guessing. And how long do we want this to last? How about length long? And of course, whenever you have a toast, you need to show it, which pretty much makes it display on the screen. So this is the only code that we have to write to save the user's login info. So whenever they click the button, it's going to get that text and save it to this file. So now, the only thing that we have to do, and actually if we run the app, then it'll run fine. We won't have any bugs or anything, hopefully, unless I mess something up. But whenever they click this display info button, nothing is going to happen because we need to create that method right now. So all this method is going to do is print out the saved data, and let me run my emulator. Forgot to kick that off. Actually, I'm afraid that if I run it, sometimes when I'm recording these tutorials, I'll start the little emulator, and then in the middle of my tutorial, you see how like you can see where my mouse is moving around? It'll just get stuck on the emulator. So I'm like, okay, and it's really hard to follow, and it ticks me off, and I feel like drop kicking my computer. So I'm not going to start that emulator, and I just rambled on about something stupid for like 5 minutes. Whatever. Alright. Public void display. Is that what I named it? On click, where you at? Okay, display data. Alright. So in here, we just want to pass through our views. Now, how do we display the data from a shared preferences file? Well, the first thing we need to do is, this is really easy, we just copy this, and this of course just says, okay, we have an app and it's using shared preferences, and what shared preferences file that do you want to use? How about this one? It's the only one we got, so we'll just reference that one right there. So now what we need to do is we can actually just make variables. That'll probably be a little bit easier. So if you call your shared preferences, which is pretty much just a reference to the file, and you call a method called getString, what you do here is you pass in what string you want. So in this file we have two strings, username and password. So we're saying, okay, get the username, and for the second parameter we don't write anything. Since it's going to return whatever value is in there, we don't want to pass in anything right now. So I know this is kind of weird syntax too, but essentially what this is going to return whenever you call this method is whatever my username is, Bucky Roberts, let's say. So now we can print this out later on, but first we copy this and do it for password. So make another temporary variable called pw, and this is of course equal to password. So again, make sure that the keys that you're putting in are equal to the keys that you're retrieving. And this second parameter, just to clarify so I don't leave you guys hanging, if you ever have a key that you access like tuna and it doesn't exist, this second parameter is what it returns if the key doesn't exist at all. So by default it's just going to return nothing, and there you go. So that's what that is. If you guys were wondering why you need a second one when you're not writing any information, that's what it is. So now that we have two variables, what we can just do is we can take Bucky's text, which was this area down here, and set it equal to whatever text was in that file. So Bucky's text, set text, and the first thing is name, and let me just add like a space in between. PW. Alright, so it'll print out the name and the password. So now let me pause this and actually run my emulator. Alright, so hopefully this works. Let me type in like Bucky Sucky. I meant to type Schmucky, but you know, Bucky Sucky. Oh, whatever. That's the dumbest. Alright. I just type pass 1 2 3 for that. So now I'm gonna hit save info, and we get a little toast that says saved. And of course, if we even delete these, we delete that and that, so we can see that it's definitely not pulling from there anymore. And I'm gonna hit display info. Then what it's gonna do is it's gonna read from that file that was saved in the background, that shared preferences file, and it's gonna print out Bucky Sucky, which is apparently my new username, and pass 1 2. So there you go. And of course, if you ever wanna, I don't know, like change your username to the New Boston, coolest username ever, in your pass to like cheese 30, you can save that. So it takes it, saves it to a file again, overwrites it, and display it, and check it out. So pretty cool. That is the basics of how you use shared preferences. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Alright guys, welcome back, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you guys how to create a custom launcher icon for your app. Now by default we're just giving this Andy, the Android looking icon, pretty boring. So what we usually want to do is we want to make a custom icon that's, I don't know, some kind of cool shape or our company's logo, whatever. The one that I'm going to use just for demonstration is this right here. I just made it in Photoshop, like 2 seconds. And whenever you're making it, make sure that it's 512 by 512, that's the size, and also make sure that it's a ping. Don't use JPEG or GIF or anything like that. 512 by 512 ping, and you can make it transparent. It doesn't have to be a big solid square like this. You can have some transparency, and if you look at like the phone icon, these default icons, you can see that they have some see-through aspect to them. So yeah, once you have that, hop over to this URL right here. So this is the Android Asset Studio, and if you don't feel like typing this in, then you can just go to Google and type in Android Asset Studio. It's going to be the first one that pops up. And this is a really cool tool that anytime you want to make like any graphics or icons that your app needs, I recommend this. It probably has anything you're looking for. What we want to do is we want to create a launcher icon. So click Launcher Icons and look at this. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to upload our image. Now if you're like, alright, why can't I just take this image that I created in Photoshop or whatever and just add it to my Android project? Well, I'm sure a lot of you guys could probably already guess this, but since Android devices are different resolutions, they need different size icons to display. So instead of just creating all of these sizes manually, which would take forever, what we can do here is just select image and double click our 512 by 512 ping, and as you can see, it's going to create all of the different sizes that we need, and we don't have to worry about what sizes they are. We don't have to worry about naming them. This tool does it all. It's awesome. Now of course we do have a couple options here. Usually you don't really want to change anything, but if you ever want to say, okay, instead of these rounded corners, you can select none, and that gives you a nice square. You can also choose like bevel, circle, gives you a perfect circle icon, whatever. Again, these are pretty much just our all personal preference, so I don't really need to talk about it in this tutorial. But one thing I am going to recommend is after you select whatever your default shape you want to choose generate web icon too. So this is going to give you a higher resolution optional icon, and later on when I talk to you guys about distributing apps, I'm going to show you guys why you actually want this, but for right now just make sure it generates that as well. And now you can click download zip. So what this is going to do is it's going to pretty much create all of these icons at different sizes, and it's going to give you them in a nice little downloadable folder. So double click that and check this out. So this earlier one is when I was recording 5 minutes ago, and I learned that my microphone was on mute, so I can just go ahead and delete that. But once you have those downloaded, the first thing you want to do is extract them all, since it is in a zip folder now, and now check them out. So again, in all of the subfolders, it gives you a nice little different size. For example, in the HDPI, this size is 72 by 72. In the X HDPI, this size is 96 by 96, whatever. But now we need to figure out, okay, these are just in my downloads folder. I want to actually add them to the project. So let me do this. Let me move this on the right hand side, and just through Windows Explorer, navigate to your Android project. So mine is in test, and again that's just this one that I'm testing out right now. And if you go to app, source, main, res, you can see, okay, these are where I need to stick all my different size graphics. Now another thing I want to point out is that make sure that you don't name these anything different. You see how they're named IC Launcher by default? That's the default name that Android says, okay, whenever I'm looking for a launcher icon, I'm looking for the graphic name IC Launcher. So again, if you name them something different, then you're going to have to change some settings in the manifest. So just keep the same name. I just want to, warn you guys. So from here, all you have to do is say go HDPI, HDPI, drag that, and override it. Go back, now another thing I want to point out, people say that you can actually just copy all of these and paste them directly into your app directory. However, when I do that, it doesn't work out. It gives me some errors, so that's why I like to manually just drag all of these in. Move and replace, and do this for every single one. Now, another thing I want to point out a bunch of stuff here. You see that by default, your Android project, it only has H, M, X, and double X. However, whenever you downloaded it, it gave you this triple X folder as well. So what you can do is you can actually take this entire thing and just drag it over here, and then it'll give you another size icon that you didn't have before. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. We can now close out of here, and if we rebuild this project, let me pause it and rebuild it. So check it out. We now have a custom launcher icon. Pretty sweet. So yeah, that's how you create it. That's how you use Android Asset Studios. And now you're going to have a custom launcher icon on every single device. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and well, I'll see you later. Welcome back to another tutorial. Alright, that should be my intro for every tutorial, but I don't know. Probably not. What am I talking about? Alright, welcome back, and in this video what I'm going to show you guys is the bare basics of how to work with GitHub using Android Studio. And of course, this is not a GitHub tutorial series. I'm going to assume that you guys already know what GitHub is and a little bit about version control. And yeah, if you don't, then I actually have a tutorial series on it. Pretty much allows you to build software with like a team of people or work on cool open source software together. So the first thing you need, of course, is a GitHub account. So go to github.com and create an account. And then once you have that, hop back in here and we're ready to start learning how to use it in Android Studio. So the first thing I probably should mention is this. I made a brand new project. This is just, you know, as I have always done, it just has the default text label. I actually want to change this. So my project I named Clam Blaster because, I don't know, that was the first name that popped in my head, oddly enough. So I'm just going to take some label, and you don't even need to do this. I just don't like that default text label. I don't know, I have a little grudge against it. And I'll say bust some clams. Alright, so now we have, you know, now it's ours. You know, now it has that more personal feel to it. So say that we created this awesome app like I have right now, and I'm like, you know what, I need the world to see this app. I'm going to make this project public so anyone can download it, help build it, work on it together. So the first thing we need to do before we actually take this and put it on GitHub is we need to prepare it for version control. So if you go up here to VCS, this stands for version control, you can select enable version control integration. So what we want to do is, since we're working with Git and not Subversion or anything, we're going to choose Git and select OK. So what this does is it pretty much takes this project and it creates a Git repository. Now with this Git repository, we can go ahead and take that and put it on GitHub. Now another thing I want to point out is this. Let me expand some of these files. You see that after you do that, your file names, they turn red. And this just indicates that, okay, you didn't actually push anything to GitHub yet. So you just created a local repository on your own computer. Now if you look at GitHub and I refresh this, I see that I don't have any repositories, nothing changed on the website. So now we have to figure out how do we take this and actually share it on the website so the world can see. Well, if you go up to VCS again and you go to import into version control, you can select the option share project on GitHub. So the very first time that you do this, it's going to ask you to log into your GitHub account, your GitHub username and password. However, after that, what you can do is you can just set up a password, and this is just a master password for quicker logins. So I'm going to type mine in right there and hit OK. And it says OK. You don't have this set up on GitHub already, so I'm going to assume that you want to create a brand new repository, which we do. So this is our project, and for the description, I'll just write like best Android app ever, since that is a pretty accurate description. Now I'm going to hit share, and after I do that, it's going to give me this little pop-up right here. So this is pretty much saying that, do you want to share all of the project files? Well, yes, we do. We want to take this entire project that we were working on, and we want to pretty much push it to GitHub to make it a public repository. Now the default commit message is just initial commit, since this is our very first commit, and hit OK, and it says successfully shared project on GitHub. So now if we look on GitHub and refresh, all of those files, this entire project, is now available for the world to see. Pretty sweet. Alright, so that's it. That's how you take a project in Android Studio and add it to GitHub. So now you're like, oh, you know what? I actually need to make some changes to this. What I want to do is this. Instead of bust some clams, I'm going to change this to bust some hams. And alright, that is much better since, I don't know, maybe we're changing this project to Ham Blaster, whatever. So after we make some changes, look at this. The file name, they turn blue. And whenever it turns blue, it indicates that this local project is different than the main GitHub repository. It pretty much just indicates that something is different. So what we need to do now is we need to figure out how to take these changes and push them to our GitHub repo. And that is actually really simple. The only thing that we have to do is this. Now you can go to VCS and choose commit changes, or if you notice, whenever you create a repository, it gives you these nice little shortcut icons. So this button right here is the commit button. So if we hit that, and if I resize this, up at the top it says, okay, these are the files on your local machine that are different than your GitHub repository. And since we only changed one file, that's why we have that. Now the commit message will just say like changed the label text to ham. Alright, looks pretty good. Now what we can do is we can just hit commit and it'll commit it. But if we just want to commit and push all at once, then we can do that as well. So now it says da 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 da, let me do my thing. And this is just a little verification. Are you sure you want to do that, Bucky? Yep. Just take this and push it, and what it does is it takes all those changes and pushes it to your GitHub account. So now if you refresh this, you now have the updated project, and you can navigate and verify that if you want, but we trust it. So that is pretty much that, how you add a project to GitHub, and also after you make some changes, how you can, through Android Studio, pretty much push those changes to your public repository on GitHub. Alright guys, so after many sleepless nights, we finally have the perfect Android app developed. So now what we need to do is we need to figure out how to get this on the Google Play Store so we can start making millions of dollars. Now, the process is actually really easy. What's going to happen is Android Studio is pretty much going to take all of your files and bundle them together into something called an APK file. Now, the APK file is the thing that you put on whatever app store, probably Google Play or Amazon also has an app store that you could put it on. But essentially, that's what we need to do first. We need to pretty much export this into an APK file so we can publish it wherever we want. So the first thing that we need to do is go down to this icon at the bottom and choose build variants. So whenever we were just developing the app, what we did is we were building it in debug mode. Now that's really good for, like I said, developing, because it shows you if you have any bugs and gives you some other cool messages. But now, once you're ready to actually build the final release, click on this and change it to release. So this is going to say, okay, now when I build it, I'm building the final version of this, the version that other users can actually install. That's what we want. Now, let me adjust myself in my seat here. Alright, so from here, what we do is we actually go up to build and say we want to generate a signed APK. Now I already know what APK means. It's the final version of your app. But what's this signed thing? Well, here's the thing. Anytime you publish an app, you need to sign it. And signing it, just like signing anything in real life, it just verifies your identity. So it says, okay, Bucky Roberts, this is your app. Or if you're working for a company like, I don't know, like Microsoft, this is your app. It pretty much just ties an identity along with the final build. So since we don't have any keys yet, and the key is just another name for your digital signature, we're going to create a new one. Now, in order to understand what a key store path is, we need to understand what a key is. So like I just said, all it is your identity, either your organization or your name. So I'm just going to say that I'll just say that this app is being developed under the New Boston. Again, all you have to write is either your organization name or your first name. You don't need to fill all this other stuff out. And for the key, you can name it anything you want. This certificate is pretty much your identity, and the alias and the password is just for you. It's nothing that the user doesn't see it on the Google Play Store or anything. So for the alias, I'm just gonna write like a release key and give it a password. And for the validity, it's always good to have 25 years. Don't do anything less than that. Actually, I think Google recommends 25 years. So this is pretty much setting up your identity. And remember, it's always a good idea to write down your password and your alias, because later on, if you ever want to update this app, it's going to ask for your password to verify that you are indeed the owner. So if you lose this, then you actually need to delete your app from the App Store and republish an entirely new one. So again, that's why you have to set all this up. So that's your key. So what the heck is this key store stuff? The key store is just a file that contains all of your keys, all of your signatures. So I know it's kind of weird, but hey, you have to yell at Google or whoever made Android Studio. So for the key store path, click this button right here. It says, where do you want to store the file that's going to hold all of your keys? Well, I already made a directory on my desktop called Final Apps, and you can name it anything you want. I'll just write like key store. And this file is encrypted. So if you were just trying to look at it in Notepad or something, it would look like weird hieroglyphics. So to unencrypt it, if you just give it a password like before, and there you go. So again, once you hit OK, it's going to create a key store path, which is a special file to hold all of your keys, and it's going to create this one key, which pretty much says, okay, you are the New Boston, and to verify that later on, this is the password that you need to give me. So hit OK, and now it automatically fills out all your stuff for you, so just hit next, and just hit OK. And alright, so you're trying to build a final version, and of course, where do you want to put it? Actually, you just want to put it, no, not there by default, so I'll put it in Final Apps, and build type release, and everything else is good by default. And it really doesn't matter where you put it, but put it somewhere that you can remember and click finish. So now it's going to start building that final APK for you, and you can check the status of it down there. And when it's finished, it says sign APK generated successfully. So I'm just going to close that and I'll show you guys. So again, this is the key store file. That's my special encrypted file with all of my signatures in it. And this APK, this is the final file that you add to the Google Play Store. So later on in the next tutorial, I'm going to show you guys how to set up, how to add an app to the Google Play Store, how to add all your screenshots in your main icon and description and stuff like that. So we now have a signed APK file. We are now good to go. Alright guys, welcome back, and in this video, what I want to do is I want to introduce you to libgdx, because I'm going to be making a little mini tutorial series on how to develop games for Android with Android Studio, and this is the framework that we're going to be using. It's actually a game development framework, and to understand why we even need to download this and use it, we need to remember that even for making a really basic game, there's a lot that goes into it. For example, even, I don't know, just look at this thing right here. You have to add the functionality, to add the character to the screen. You probably have some physics in there. You probably have some collision detection if he bumps into stuff, maybe some audio. So this looks like the most basic game ever, but even a really simple game has a lot of different pieces to it. Now, what this framework is essentially a tool that packages all the libraries, all the stuff together, and it also takes care of a lot of the back end stuff, the complex stuff, so we don't have to worry about it. So that's why we need this. That's what it's going to do, and let me show you guys how to get started. So go to either this URL or type libgdx into Google. The URL might change, but it'll always be the first one that pops up, and click download. Now we want to choose download setup app, and whenever we do it, it's going to give us a jar file. We want to keep it, we trust it, and when we double click it, check it out, it's going to give us this right here. Now this is essentially a jar file that's going to help us set up our project. Now the first time we set up a project, it's going to take some time because it needs to download a bunch of different files and kind of like set everything up with Android Studio. But after that, it's going to be really fast. So again, make sure that we get this right. So the first thing, the name is just the name of your game, the name of your project. I'm just going to name mine Bucky Blaster because that sounds sweet. Now the package, of course, we learned whenever we were just making regular apps, it's your website in reverse domain notation. So mine is the New Boston dot Bucky Blaster. Now the game class is just the name of the class, of course. We can just leave that at default. The destination is where do you want this project or your game to just be stored. And I'm just going to store mine where I put all of my desktop Android projects. And I already made a folder, and this is just an empty folder. Let me show you guys this. So what I did already before, desktop Android projects. See, this is the folder I made. It's just a blank folder, nothing in it. And this is just where I want to, on my computer, save the project. So I'm going to browse to that again. Where was it? Desktop Android projects, and in this folder right here. And the last thing you need to give it is your Android SDK URL, because it's going to use your Android SDK pretty much to set everything up behind the scenes. So how do you get that? The easiest way is this. If you open up Android Studio and you go to configure, from here you can go to project defaults, project structure, and this pops up the URL. So copy this. The first one is the one you need, the Android SDK. Control C. The bottom one is the JDK. We don't need to worry about that. And also back out of here. But anyways, once we have the URL for that, we can paste it right there. Now, under here, subprojects. With this, what you can do is you can actually develop cross-platform. So you can write your code and you can run this game on desktop or iOS for like iPhones, iPads, even just web games, but I only want to concentrate on making Android games in this little mini series. The extensions, these are just the different pieces I was talking to you guys about, some of them, but for right now, I want to keep things really simple. So if you click generate, and you have to agree, it's saying warning, different version, just click yes. You're gonna have another one, yes, and I thought there would be one more, but I guess that's it. Now what's going to happen is it's going to start pretty much building your project for you. And again, the very first time it's going to download a bunch of stuff that you need, and it may take a few seconds, but once you're done, it's going to give you this little indicator right here, build successful, done, and some instructions on how to get started opening your project. So what I want to do is show you guys that. So from here, now that everything is essentially set up for us, if we go to import non-Android Studio project, then we can navigate to wherever we told it to be saved. And mine was in my desktop Android projects. And remember, I put everything in a folder called Bucky Blaster. So I'm just going to click OK. and it's gonna pretty much open it in Android Studio. Now again, this is gonna take some time, so I'm gonna pause my screen recorder and I'm gonna come back in a few minutes. Alright, so once it's done setting everything up, what it's going to do is essentially build you a very simple default basic project. And if you run it, I actually already ran it because the emulator is slow and I didn't want to make you guys wait. You should get something like this, which is pretty much just a red screen, red background, and their little, I don't know if this is their logo, their little graphic in the bottom left. So if you see this, you are good to go, ready to move on to the next step. If you had any problems with anything, then please ask me in my forum. A lot of people are willing to help. But for now, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next video.